Welcome to the Collingwood Rant. I'm Sly.
And I'm Spook, who doesn't like losing.
And I'm the Chief, again.
He doesn't like losing either.
No, I don't like losing.
Gentlemen,
Yes.
heartbreak and disappointment at the G. Premiership aspirations over. But enough about Carlton. We also lost to Melbourne on the King's birthday. The inaugural King's birthday.
You think we would have got up for the King, wouldn't you? He's
Well, Lou
he's
Richards
you.
and Tony Shaw.
Do you know how much the King loves the pies?
Oh, I think he loves them quite a bit. What are your thoughts? Spook, to you first about this game.
What was your question?
What do you think about this game?
What did I think about it?
Yeah.
Well, now that I've calmed down, in the cold, hard light of 20 minutes ago, in the scheme of things, I think you made a point about this, that they threw everything at us. We played like shit. We only lost by 4 points. The fact that they fucking missed everything helped as well, but it's not all.
Just on that though,
it's not all doom and gloom.
Just on a static thing, I mean, people sort of go like, yeah, if they kick straight, they kicked 18-9 or whatever, then would have got smashed. But I mean, you know, if they kicked a couple of goals ahead like that, we probably would have pulled them in, and it would have been even. So sometimes I think it's a little bit inaccurate to say, hey, let's just swap the goals at the points, and that would have been the margin. Chief, what are your thoughts about this game?
Would have been a bigger margin then instead.
Oh, might have been ultimately.
Oh, well,
but,
terrible. Let's be serious. We couldn't stick a handball. We couldn't mark anyone and a ball. We were terrible. We were the worst. So
going into this week, you had all the talk of flu. The Dacoses were going to miss. Elliott pulled out, or Elliott wasn't fit. Ginnivan pulled out last minute, so there seems to be a lot of shit going around.
Well, they said they managed Ginnivan. It wasn't illness.
Yeah, okay, well, I believe the club. They once said the guy was out for 10 days, and 10 weeks later he came back. Not.
It was a hammy, wasn't it?
Yeah, so you remember that.
The two-week hammy.
I'm not bagging this club. All the clubs do it. They just, they say what they say. But there seemed to be a lot of underlying shit going on behind the scenes.
Yes.
This week.
Yeah. In terms of illness and illness seemed to hover around for about the last month.
Are we using illness as an excuse?
No, I'm not using an excuse. I'm just saying this has been going on.
I am, yes. I'm going to use illness as an excuse.
I think it's a foul. It's clearly a foul.
We were just way off. And you got to think some of them were ill.
You had a function, I think, that was meant to be on Saturday night with the Dacoses. All three of them were meant to thing, and they pulled out of that. There was rumours going around that they tested positive for COVID. I think if one person gets the flu, especially in a work environment, it does spread.
Oh, it is. It spreads.
Yeah, and look, and I'm again not using this as an excuse, but there was clearly they were lethargic today. The decision making wasn't there. They were fumbly. It's like they all probably tested positive for COVID or Clumford.
I actually think you got to sort of draw back to the baseline and just accept Melbourne beat us, because if you start sort of saying flu shit,
we can't do that. We can't do that.
They played way better. They played way better.
They did.
I mean, if you look at it in terms of, like, the one thing I think you look at in terms of personnel, the goalie's out, side bottom's out.
Elliott's out.
They're two, but the goalie, side bottom are two vital parts of that engine room. And then you get Lipinski coming back after, he hasn't played the whole year. So you get someone coming in who hasn't played for 12, 13 weeks. And you brought McInnes in. So you got like a younger squad coming in, or an unprepared squad. And you get sort of this team where it just looks like they're a little bit undermanned and a little bit underprepared, because they just haven't had the groundwork in Lipinski's case. So, and Cameron's the other one. So they haven't been able to match it with Melbourne's ferocity and intensity. And I think we said this last year. You only got to take a couple of the right players out of the Collingwood site, and they're going to come right down to the pack. And the goalie's a major out. He's been phenomenal this year.
You'd argue side bottoms. It's similar to great loss. Yeah. I mean, for that linking play off the wing, side bottom, and especially with his delivery, it's a big loss. When you consider how much they reverted, not so much they reverted, but that they bombed everything today just in a panic, in the way that, Melbourne defensively structured beautifully. They shut down our run. We just started to sort of almost panic and just try and chaos the ball up the other end and hope something would happen. Whereas when you got the likes of DeGoey and side bottom in the side, it does give you a lot more accurate drive.
Well, DeGoey breaks the lines, and side bottom can actually pass to a player. And so all we were doing out of the back line was just bombing. And it was either going straight to a Melbourne player or going to a contest and coming back in. Yeah,
at the times the likes of Nick and Josh were uncharacteristically spraying all over the shop. Yeah, but they got COVID, so that's
you look at the midfield, I thought Adams is good, and Mitchell got a lot of possessions. I don't know how impactful he was. The 2 Dacoses are bad. Pendlebury was really bad. This is a game where you look at the game.
He was best on ground for Melbourne.
I hope you had the flu, because this is sort of the game where you're going, well, you're 38 years of age. Is it catching up to you?
One game, yeah.
I don't think
he's just off.
I don't think he's been great since the Anzac Day. I think that he's had passages that he's good, but he just seems a little bit slow. And then, look, I'll call it out because no one else. Well, Cameron was fucking terrible. Cameron, I mean, I thought we fixed our ruck stocks when we sent Grundy to Melbourne, but Cameron was just really, he was really bad.
He's been average since he's been back. So he hasn't impacted anything. I mean, against North, Goldie, who's 112, just demolished us, So put Cox in there and let him play and put Cameron up front.
And I think that was a disappointing thing. Like, there's a couple of contests where Cameron, he didn't charge at the marking contest. He sort of pulled up like, going, that guy's going to get it. And it's like, no, you run into him, because that's what you do when you're that size, and you make him realise, if you're in my way, I'm going to hit you. And Cox did that. Cox did that once to Gawn. He just like, oh, you're in my way, I'm still going for it. I'm actually really surprised that after Cox had a BOG against Fremantle a month ago, and that's one of the best ruck games I've seen from anyone, but then the following week, Cameron just came straight in and just reassumed the ruck. I thought that would have been an opportunity to go, let's go with Cox. Let's see what happens here. I'm actually a little bit disappointed they didn't do that. Cox plays with a bit of intent. He plays with a bit of mongrel. You saw him and Petrarca mouthing off at the end of the game. And I don't know. There's a couple of players at Collingwood, Johnson and Cameron, who seem really lackadaisical at times. And that's not to say that they're not trying their best, but geez, I'd love to see some fiery intensity of it if you're in my way. Like the Goey, you're going to be hurt.
Yeah. You look at the way, I mean, in terms of the big man stocks at Frampton, he hit a number of packs quite hard today. I think he played a better overall game than...
Well, just look at the way more plays. More plays like, you're in my way, then you're in my way. I'm not stopping. I'm not pulling up short. I'm still running straight for it.
But I think Frampton has had a few games now under his belt. Yeah. In the defence, without having to pinch in the ruck, he's getting the systems right. But yeah, I would have preferred Cox does 80% of the ruck and puts Cameron down front out of the square, and see how that goes if they're going to play them both, and switch it. But Cameron's been playing too much, and he's just took a few good marks in the back line, but that was about it.
You made a point that since he's come back, we're getting slaughtered in the middle. And look, Cameron plays some good games and all that, but I really want to see an intensity from everyone. Mm-hmm. And at times he plays like, I don't know. I mean, maybe just his demeanour, that's the way he looks, and maybe he's really like that angry. But, the way he attacks the contest compared to someone like Cox like really imposes his presence. Anytime there's a ball up in the air, you go, if Cox is going for it, if he doesn't mark it, he's at least going to hit the pack. I'm really disappointed. Johnson's another one who was pretty... non-existent, I guess is the best word.
Yeah, well, there was... I don't recall seeing it, but apparently he was subbed out not long after he refused to chase or something. I don't know whether that was the catalyst for it, but I think that was going around on social media a bit. Yeah. But yeah, he really didn't do much today, and he can do that, and that's the frustrating thing with him, is you got all these beautiful X Factor skills, but when he doesn't work, he just doesn't work.
But the not working part's one thing, but he dropped 4 marks that I can think of on top of my head. Like chest mark, a couple of overheads.
Chest mark in the middle.
Yeah, a couple of overheads in the front that we needed a goal for. He was just totally off. He barely, I don't know how much stats he had. If he had 4 stats, probably poor. And he's actually been playing pretty well, but today he was just totally out.
Can you get Dosker on the phone? Can you give us the numbers?
I've got stats when I actually find them. Keep 3. Talking amongst yourself.
So he's
got 3 stats. So he's got 1 kick and 2 handballs.
Yeah, nothing. Not good enough for anyone on the ground.
The defensive aspect's not a primary part of his makeup, but he just seemed... Oh, look, all of them seemed out of position today. They seemed Carlton-esque, the way they attacked.
Even Checkers was totally off. He got well held. Yeah, May killed him.
But you know what I'll say about this game is, like, I watched it. I go back to the Malthouse years. They used to talk about these big games, and Malthouse would look at players and go, "Well, that's where I draw lines for your name when I look at you in big games. How you perform in big games." And there's a couple of guys, I look at, like, Cameron was really bad. Hoskin Elliott, what's he, about 34, and he's played 900 games at Collingwood. He was real... Like, he got a lot of it, but he just didn't do a lot with it.
No.
That's every game with Hoskin Elliott, though. He gets some of it and doesn't do a hell of a lot with it.
And I think, just on something that fucking annoyed me at the time.
No.
But it was about, 4.5 minutes to go. He's taking that mark outside, and he fucking starts there scratching his nuts. I'll do my fucking laces up. He wound down the fucking clock 30 minutes.
Whereas,
30 minutes, 30 seconds.
Yeah.
You think, no, you just got to fucking rush it at that point and go for it. And he fucking missed anyway.
Yeah, that's what Checkers did when he kicked that last one.
It just made no fucking... And that really shows at that time about where's your fucking head in the game.
Look, the disappointing thing for me, one of the disappointing things with Hoskins is he fucking flies for marks and he drops them. And it's like he makes great position, and then it's like, okay, this will be a telling mark, and then he drops it.
Takes a few good ones.
But not enough. It's like you want, like Anthony Rocketto, and I know they're not similar players, but we're just sort of saying in that situation, you want the guy who's going to go, yeah, this is my opportunity, I'm going to fucking grab it. He doesn't do that. He drops a lot of them. Watching today, I know, look, we're fucking 11-2 or whatever the fuck it is.
12-2, I think, are we?
11-2.
11-2, is it?
Yeah, it would if we won today and lost 2 weeks from now. But yeah, we're 11-2, and so I'm not sort of saying let's panic or anything, but I'm really surprised going at the start of the year and looking at that team. I would have thought by the end of the year it'll change. There'll be 3-4 players like you go to 2010, you had Lockyer and O'Brien and Fraser in there. By the end of the year, they do it in there. Hoskins to me is like one he's got to, unless he really lifts his performance and his impact, they've got to find a better option.
Yeah, but who's pushing for his spot?
I look at him and go, well, it's like go back to 2010. So McCaffrey and Blair came in, and it wasn't like they were getting great numbers, but they were doing as much as the guys they replaced. That's all you really want, and they have upside. The other one's Noble. I thought was really, really average. Made a lot of errors, made a lot of bad decisions, and you can't blame flu or virus on some of these choices where he's lobbing handballs up to people about to get crunched. And he's not a big guy, so. It's how much can you do at that size, and if you're going to be at that size, then you've got to do some stuff really exceptionally.
Definitely. I think in those classic games where we're controlling the tempo of the game, he's an asset. He finds a bit of space, he clears the ball quite well, but when the pressure's on, he just became a panic merchant today.
There's nothing to go to though. When you look at it, what he had, there was nothing to go to. Everyone was well held.
He kept going to the Melbourne.
Yeah, but that's because
he had something to go to.
It was everyone was well held. So not just Noble, everyone was just poor today. And there was nothing going up forward. So even in defence, there was no run and there was no one to kick to because Melbourne, like you said, was set up very well defensively and were marking everyone. And so, but the interesting thing was they had more people in defence and they had more people in the forward line. I don't know how that happened. So that's just been running harder up and down the ground.
But the flip side on the Nobles of the world is, look, you can grab the ball and run forward and go, that's all your Melbourne players. Okay, you know what? Then you turn around and just lay it off to someone 25 metres behind you to just get a bit of time and space. He was still going forward. And there was a couple of times he held onto the ball. There was one where he went down the centre. He had Hill loose, totally, on the half-forward line. And instead of going for him, he held on the ball, and he said, I'm going to do a really loopy handball. I can't remember.
That was the terrible handball to Maynard that went to his feet.
Yeah, and it was like when he got crunched. And just, you need players to make better decisions. Look, the fucking reality is, like, everyone's running around celebrating, we're fucking Collingwood 11-2 and all that sort of shit. You've done nothing yet. You've done absolutely fucking nothing. So if you're running around celebrating how great you are, you're just doing what every other fucking Collingwood supporter has done any other time we've looked like premiership favourites. You've done nothing, and you've got to look at like the side right now and go, okay, what are our strengths and what are our weaknesses? Because we've got to get better. I know McRae does that. He goes, how do we get better? But there's players in that side, I think, in finals who are going to expose you.
Well, and I think games like today are a great time to find that out. We've lost to, we've played everyone in the top four. We smashed Port Adelaide, but fucking, I think everyone was smashing them at that time. I think now it would be a different ball game if we played them. But we got pumped by Brisbane up there, but the Gabba factors in that.
I mean, just nudged out by the Brisbane games when they just lost both Cox and Cameron, so McStay was rocking.
Yeah, but you're gonna find things out from those particular games, and I think realistically they're the ones you're more likely to face in the finals. That you're going to take some of the shit that happened today as a really valuable learning. If you went out there and got fucking, if we pumped them, we would all be sitting there happy and stuff, but they probably wouldn't play the same type of game when it comes to finals. But at least now we've sort of seen what their best looks like to a certain extent, where our deficiencies lie. We can now sort of structure differently when we come to facing them.
The thing with our today, like we lost by 4 points, and we say, we only lost for 4 points, we played so bad, but sometimes just for the reality check, you'd rather lose by 8 goals to say, well, actually we played bad and we deserved the shellacking that we got because we played bad.
It's also clearly evident when you look at what the fucking Melbourne kicked 18 behind.
Yeah.
They were spraying everything left, right. I mean, they dominated the game.
Yeah,
I think but you can't hide from that as well. Even though the scoreline is still close, you still got to realistically go away and do an assessment of the game this week and say, well, fuck,
I think
we probably should have lost by 6 or 7 goals. All things being equal, but look, I don't think it would have changed the problems that are out there today.
No.
But here's the thing, I think the side, and I know people go, well, this happens for every club, but I think when you get the engine room working really well, which is the Goey, Mitchell, Adams, I thought Adams was really good, and Dacos and all that, then everyone else falls into place and they look good. And it's this whole thing, like if you go back to 203, we made a grand final. If you look at that side, that's not the greatest side to ever make a grand final. Like there's a lot of problematic players. But then when it fell apart in the next couple of years, a lot of those players were exposed when that core or the engine room wasn't working. And I think it's the same thing here. Once that engine room works, a lot of people fall into the wake and they look really good. Now, the problem with that is, like I said, I know a lot of times the engine room is going to be shut down regardless of the team, but then you need other players to start up. And I think at the moment you've got too many guys who are riding in the wake rather than guys who are starting the engine. And that's what you really need. And I mean, that's a lot of that's also come from, with Dacos being tagged now when he goes to half-back, that shuts down that sort of run out of defence. So that's one cog that's been shut down. I think Crisp and Maynard have been, they haven't been terrible, but they've been just sort of solid this year rather than being really good. Noble's struggled. Quaynor is spasmodic. Moore is providing a lot of the rebound. Yeah. Murphy's really good intercept, but he's not a rebounder. So I think they've really got to sort of look at what's our best team going to look like for the next 5 years, not just for this year. Whether that's Ed Allen or McRae or McInnes or whatever it is, but I think they've got to start looking at some of those players and going, these guys aren't part of the premiership team. They're carrying us the journey, but they're not part of the premiership team.
Yeah, look, if you fail this year, that'll be pretty quick happening, I think.
Well, the issue we've got at the moment, I was talking about the engine room. So the engine, like you said, when the engine is running, we can afford to play that forward line that we've got. But today's just exposed that if you got, people like Lever and May at the back, was just going to intercept everything. You can't lob it all the time when you're under pressure. There's no one there to actually take a mark or to put it to ground even, because they're just not big enough against those two. So you had Checkers who was on May, and May dominated him, and the second person you had there against Lever was some McCreary against him and that sort of stuff, which is great when it's on the ground, but when it's not getting on the ground, you can't just afford to lob it in because it's just not going to happen.
But I'm surprised, with someone like Cox, they're limiting his game time rather than just go down the goal.
Yeah, I was surprised that, or either one, Cox or Cameron. I don't know why they didn't just put them down there. So you guys are big, probably because I don't think they're quick enough against the May. But I would have thought because we're under pressure so much, bomb it long and see what they can do with it.
Yeah, I think Coxie he seemed to be a focal point in the first half. They did try to. They were looking for him.
The second half, he was still on the bench. In that last quarter, he was on the bench.
That seemed to be the case, but it was obviously altered after half time, which is strange.
Oh, like I said, I mean, of all the in excess of 6'5", Cox is the one I think is the best option. I know they've gone to Cameron, but I think that's a total misnomer. I think they should have just stayed with Cox and said to Cameron, now you got to win this spot off him. Cox is the guy. And, I mean, I've said it for 5 years. Cox is a ruckman who they're trying to force to play forward. When they've played him as a ruckman, he fucking looks good. But then they keep trying to force him to play forward, which is just ridiculous. And the times we sort of wrestled some momentum back, I thought was when Cox was in the ruck.
It was, because we were getting dominated, At least he could actually provide a better contest. And Cameron was good back, so I don't know what happened. I barely saw Cox in the back line, but I saw Cameron back a lot more than Cox. I don't know how they were playing.
They were spreading, depending where the ball was, it was you go for that, take those ones, you take those ones. So I think that's why Cameron rarely saw Cox in the back line. I think they're just sort of playing by zones again. When it goes that way, then it's your job.
Okay. And when you watch it on TV, you can't tell those things, but yeah.
I was watching it from the Melbourne coaching box. Any final thoughts about this game? Because, it's just a shit night or shit day out. Melbourne too good. I think that...
It's a good time for a break.
Oh, I think that's fairly evident.
Yeah, so that's the thing. I think it's a good time for us to have 2 weeks off. Get some of these players back. Get the flu or whatever, the sickness, this COVID that's out of the club. As you said, put everyone in a room, get them to cough on each other, and get everyone sick for the next week and get them back.
Yeah, the system. Well, they're going away for 5 or 6 days. They're shutting the club down.
I don't know.
So they can go out and get diphtheria and stuff now too. So just add to just get all the melodies, and then everyone's cherry ripe for the run home.
Well, I heard the biggest melody was they use the same change room as Carlton the previous night.
You'd have to wear a mask in there, wouldn't you? Because of all the shit smell.
Well, you won't be identified playing for Carlton.
I heard Cripps was still in there. He was still looking for a position.
Jeez. Going forward, so Kruger kicked 5 goals in the VFL.
Good on him.
So what does that forward line look like, going into the future? You got Kruger, Johnson, McStay was meant to come back, but apparently sort of jarred his finger or some shit.
But McFly did say he should be okay post the bye, but yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately. But
Cox, he said they can find the finger, they'll put it back on, it'll be good.
But so they spent a lot of money on getting him to stay down there, but what does the future look like going forward? Is it playing the 2 rucks, or is it playing one of the ruckmen and the part-time ruck in McStay or Johnson or Kruger? What is it? I mean, I really, out of all those options, I'd probably actually put Kruger at the top, just because he attacks the ball like if you're in my way, I'm going to kill you. And the other 2 don't have that.
The risk, with him is again, where's his longevity to actually see out games in continuation.
I should point out though, I'm saying this, let him run around the VFL for 4 weeks. If his body's standing up, then let's have a look at him.
Well, he's going to get an opportunity. Did he play the week before?
Yeah.
So he's had this is his 2nd week back in the VFL.
No, I don't think he's ever missed.
3 or 4. I think he's played 4 weeks.
And they'll presumably play over the bye weekend as well. So he's going to get a good old tilt at it coming back for the Gold Coast game. So yeah, look, I think you'd almost have to get him back in. And at the moment, I think Johnson and Will to a certain extent.
Mychek's the one who's definitely in. So
and Cox, you can't take him out, as your ruck, because he's played a top season.
But Cox is always like the relief ruckman. That's the thing that I never understood under any of these coaches. That give him a run at it, see what he's like.
We had Grundy before, so Grundy was all Australian, so he was always going to be the relief.
Yeah, well, back then, but when Grundy was injured in 2021, and then Cameron was still carrying the ruck, and everyone's going, he's played such a great season, let's go with Cameron. Cox, I think, shows a lot of ruck craft. He shows some really good finesse around the ball. He attacks the ball with intent. He plays like a big guy. If you're in my way, then that's your problem, not my problem. I don't think he doesn't like the back chat. You see the sort of the exchange he had with Petrarca. It's like something Petrarca said has pissed him off, and he hasn't just sort of said, "I'm going to shake your hands and walk away." He's like, "Fuck, you're fucking me over here, so fuck you." And it was quite obviously that way. It wasn't the other way, because it was Cox had the offence there. It wasn't Petrarca. I want to see that attitude in every player. Every player runs out there. I want to see him fucking play with dangerous intensity. And if that means, like McCreary is another one. He always attacks the ball. And there's another guy throwing is Harvey Harrison. He's only getting a handful of possessions, but at least he really attacks the contest.
Yeah,
which I really like. And he's a good size for, physically.
Yeah, he's good. Yeah, mature body.
So, I mean, I like Ginnivan, but Ginnivan doesn't have that fanaticism at the moment. And I don't know if he'll ever get it.
Yeah, look, he had it until they tried to break him by the middle of last year. The media and every commentator in the AFL tried to break him. He actually had the swagger and all the rest of it. I think that's impacted him, and probably the whole thing at the start of the year has impacted him. The whole Twitter video, all the rest of it, I think it's impacted him. I think potentially he goes back, plays a few weeks in the reserves, but I think it does give us something different in the forward line to play, and when he's playing well and he's like he did last year, he kicked 40 goals. When he's playing well, he gives you something a bit extra, a bit different than what else you got there. So otherwise...
But the difference between last year and this year is Hill's there now.
Different players. They're different.
No, but I'm saying, but there's a spot there that now Hill's taking up, and Hill's obviously probably the first on pencil in terms of small forwards.
Yeah.
So there's one less spot there. I think they really like McCreary because he plays...
puts pressure.
Yeah, puts pressure. So that third spot, then you got Elliott coming in, and then you got Ginnivan, and then you got Harrison. So I think they're looking at that and going, well, how do we make this work? And they might look at it and just go, look, this is not quite working, having the 4 mid-sized forward. I don't know. They're just saying, going forward, what does that look like? And then you got Mychek, McStay, Kruger, Johnson, and then you got one of either Cox or Cameron in there. So how does that look in terms of the balance?
I think at the moment Johnson might might be the one on the outer.
I think he's the one more likely to make way.
Make way. He just hasn't been playing. He played well at the start of the season, but the last month hasn't played that well. And this week was poor. So maybe he needs a couple of weeks to get a bit of touch. And then can you put Kruger and McStay in? I don't know.
No, you can't, because then you got Cox and Cameron. So again, there's only so many of these tall guys you're going to play.
I think McStay's got priority on Kruger from.
So I mean, certainly from an investment perspective.
Yeah, well, that's
from dollar value.
Yeah, that's where I think he's got his any pledge on the position is like they've spent a lot on me. I didn't watch Brisbane a lot. I saw some of McStay, and it was just like, okay, he contends it and all that sort of shit. Kruger, as far as I'm concerned, probably has more upside if he can stay fit. So Kruger would take my priority of McStay, regardless of the fact they're paying $570 or whatever for him. But again, it's about that balance. What's going to work out for him? Because they might go, well,
try it.
Kruger and McStay don't work, but Kruger and Johnson, or McStay and Johnson work, because Johnson's a different player.
Yeah. The problem is to address our key forward woes, McStay's not the answer, and he's a stopgap at best. It's a difficult one. I think even though you can get him back into the side, it's still a glaring issue. We really do need a big-handed Larky type or somebody down in the forward line that you can rely on.
Yeah, you know that rocker type is going to attack.
Or bring the ball around if it can't be marked.
I mean, we were having this conversation pre-game. It was like, in 2003, your key forward was Rocker, and then it was Tarrant, and then Ben Kinnear. And Ben Kinnear looked like a really good footballer as the third forward behind those two guys when you had the system working. So if you actually get that system working in terms of the synergy and the chemistry of who's going to sit there, then it brings other players into the game. What about going down back? You got Howe, who's starting to train again, and you got this defensive six, which fits more. Obviously, he's there regardless. Murphy, same thing. Frampton, and then you get all those small defenders in Quaynor, Noble, Maynard, or mid-sized defenders, and Markov, and then you get Howe potentially coming back. So how does that work going forward?
It's a tough one. I think defence to a certain extent is relatively settled. It's not something I think you're going to mess a lot with. It's almost you're going to have some of these guys in the wings to put behind glass and break in case of emergency. Do you think Howe's going to come in? I mean, Howe's going to be well respected and all that sort of stuff. But for me, he struggled when he came back last year, especially coming around finals. He was well and truly underdone. Unless he can come back and start having game time in the next couple of weeks, would you take the risk?
I think you got to put him. I think you got to put him through the VFL. I think you got to give him a couple of rounds in there, because he's been off for so long. Just see if he can get him half a game, get him a full game, put him a few weeks in there, and see how he comes back. And then if someone gets injured or whatever the case is, but I think he's got to go in.
But interestingly, when Howe went out, Frampton came in. So
different players, you're totally different players.
Yeah, I know, but it's like, do you go for the two bigger defenders?
They might play,
and then Howe, or do you go for like more and then Howe and then Murphy playing as a little bit of a tweener? So I think they've got to go for the two taller defenders, regardless, because that gives them a lot of flexibility.
Oh, well, you saw today. I mean, there were times where Frampton he's got the capacity to climb over the back and just punch the bejesus out of the ball. Moore's a great mark. Murphy's a great intercept mark. I think that's your settled three big boys down there.
How had the leap? So I don't know if he's still got the leap.
I think that's the key.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know if he's still got the leap.
I
don't
think I surely won't.
Because he could do the leap and the punch at the time. So
yeah. Look, I mean, I think you said you have to put him through his paces and just see whether he's still capable of doing the good things that he used to do.
But then who goes out?
No, I mean through the VFL.
But I mean, let's say.
Well, yeah.
Let's say he's like they're looking at him going, well, he's capable of a shot. Who goes out?
I don't think you can. You drop Murphy.
Murphy, I think Murphy and Moore are the two you pencil in. Two of the top six.
And I think Frampton, they're grooming him for that third big man role.
And Maynard's another one who I think those.
Well, he ain't going anywhere either.
Yeah, no, Quaynor's like I think it's Frampton's the one that would be the one that you'd get rid of if you want to put Howe back in.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm sort of saying is like, and the balance.
I'm saying I think
the balance is: do you go for like tall defenders like Moore and Frampton? Do you go for tweeners like Howe, Maynard, Murphy. Was it Murphy? Or do you go for like the smaller ones like Noble And I mean, I don't know how small Kona is, but he's sort of one.
I think Frampton would be the one that'd be on the chopping block if Howe's coming back in.
I mean, it's also interesting because if they sort of go like, look, let's look at Cameron and Cox, and that's it. We're only playing one. That might actually impact whether they play Frampton or not.
Well, that's a different story because then you need a potential sub-ruck there.
Yep.
So I'm just saying the balance is that side. I mean, look, the reality is I think Howe's finished. I think the last 2 years have been good.
That is a possibility. It's had 2 bad injuries. So.
And unless he has exceptional form, they should be just going, look, we've got to move forward and we've got to find replacements going forward. Going to 10, that flag, Presti was our fullback for 15 years. But they got to a point where, he had groin problems and they brought Brown in. They just said, well, we're going with Brown and Reid. So I think at a certain point, you just got to go, look, maybe this, you can't go on sentimentality. You've got to go on.
Spot on.
What is. And midfield-wise. So the going and side bottom will come back at some point. Nick Dacos, do you move him into the midfield permanently, or do you still sort of play this like coming off the half-back flank? And
Sorry, you go.
I reckon you might put him on a wing. I reckon you might do the Dacos' wings, and pull him in wing, half forward and middle, and do this little triangle type of thing. Because he's got the run, and he's got the legs, and he can run up and down, and uses the ball well. So potentially you can do that rather than just put him just straight in the middle constantly to do the bash and crash, which he'll get there. But if you want to not put him in there for so long, but get him around the ball, do that.
Yeah, I think the bash and crash should be the concern as well, in terms of he will function beautifully in the midfield if he's got someone feeding them ball.
Yeah.
And it's his great skill at the moment.
I don't think you can rely on him to play the bash and crash. That's not his game.
No. But I think you need someone like Mitchell or someone like an Adams that's going to put their head over the ball with the regularity to get it out there, and then his creative flair will take care of the rest.
And that's what I'm saying. If you can run him in off the wing, they're getting it out, extracting. So if you've got the Dacos running one wing and the other wing, with side bottom sort of running wing into the forward line, So
going forward, we have a break. Then we're playing Adelaide.
Is it? I thought we were playing Gold Coast next.
I thought we were playing Adelaide. Yeah, playing Adelaide 25th of June, and we're playing Gold Coast 1st of July. You say I don't research. And then we're playing. It's
got it written down there. It's right there.
It's printed. Then we're playing
Doska.
Then we're playing Bulldogs and Fremantle. So next month, Adelaide, Gold Coast, Bulldogs, Fremantle.
Are we playing Adelaide over there, did you say?
No, here. We already played him there when the umpires tried to carry him over the line. So
when are we playing that? We playing at the G?
Yeah. So at the start of the year, would you have thought we'd be 11-2?
Oh, fuck no.
No.
I thought we were going to be 13-0, so I agree. So we're playing Adelaide, who've shown some good form, but they are vulnerable at times, particularly away from home.
Well, like Papua New Guinea.
Gold Coast, that's over there. Yes. And then Bulldogs, who are all over the place, and then Fremantle, which is here. So you're playing these 4 games, and you play Port Adelaide there, which will be a
that's
big
going to
game.
be a real good challenge.
Yeah, and then you play Carlton here.
Well, that's not really a challenge, is it?
They might change coaches.
Technically, it's another bye.
Yeah. So you expect Voss to get sacked the week before that game? That's the usual thing that they sort of have before Collingwood. You
can guarantee it. Absolutely. Pencil that in. No. I think Voss has already booked an overseas trip. Voss, or did I say Boss? Voss.
But we have the break, and then we play Adelaide here. 11-2. None of us expected us to be at that point. I don't think we're a brilliant list. I think it's just really well coached, which goes to the Carlton thing of I think when there's a really good system, players look great. That Adelaide game, do you think we're sort of a chance
to lose? To
lose. Do you think we should smash them?
I think we'll lose by 10 goals.
So obviously the goalie won't be back. Sidebottom probably won't be back, but there's other guys. Elliott and that should be back.
Yeah.
Ginnivan will be back. Lipinski has had his 1 week run.
Well, Adelaide don't have the ruck.
McStay will be fit.
So you'd hope the midfield would be right. Tex can't score another 10 goals. I mean, the last 2 weeks, what did they play? Hawthorn, and they were up by 100 points, and West Coast, they're up by 100 points. So, they've played nobody.
No, I think of the Port Adelaide the week before. Port Adelaide smash.
Yeah.
I'm talking about Adelaide, isn't it?
You don't think that should be too much of an issue here.
Oh, look, of the next 4, so let's just look at the next 4. Adelaide, Gold Coast over there, Bulldogs, Marvel, and Fremantle here at the MCG. So of that 4,
they should all be wins.
So you want a win at least 3.
At least. But you win 4.
Yeah. Okay. And then... Sorry, I've lost my point of view. You should get the go engine of them back going into toward the end of the year. Not the end of the year. Sorry, after that little block of 4, then you're getting the Goey back, and you can.
Goey's only got 3 weeks, not 6 weeks.
He's got 2 more weeks there. Yeah. But I was saying, in that little block, you're getting the Goey back.
He's actually. I mean, it's handy for him to be back for the Dogs game.
Yeah. Okay.
You'd have Elliot back after the break.
After the bye.
When you have Oscar and Elliot back.
And hopefully, COVID that's been running around is gone. So, you'd be right.
Yeah, he'd be gone by then. You think, The Black Death, are they going to have that? They'll probably talk about that there for a while.
So going forward, what do you see sort of like for the end of the year? What do you see for the rest of the year? After like
just misery and pain.
No, we're going to win everything, and then it's misery and pain at the end of the finals.
Yeah, we're just following the usual routine.
What's going forward, like so, 11 to
we'll finish on top.
We'll finish on top. Spook.
We'll go close to top. I think then the aim has to be a top 2 position finish because my biggest fear going into any final, and assuming that Brisbane stay in there as well, that we don't want to play them at the Gabba. I think if we play them here, no problems whatsoever.
A bit like Sydney.
We have to go up there. It's going to put us behind the 8 ball, and that's the only thing I can get into my head at the moment that I want to. Out of all the final scenarios, I want to avoid. And look, the simple thing is we finish top 2, we host. So keep it going.
I think top 2. I think we finish top 2, have a break, everyone's back, injury-free released, and
so out of curiosity,
premiership.
So Spook, you were unavailable last week. The Goey penalty, fair or not fair? The Goey bump.
Oh, I think under the way that they're looking at the game now and trying to get rid of that aspect of it, it was a given that he was going, and 3 weeks I think was the best outcome that we could possibly have hoped for.
Which was a function of that he got concussed. If he didn't get concussed...
I want to fucking point out, though, Fox Footy on your Twitter feed, they're having a wank today with some post celebrating the bump that laid out Hoskin Elliott. So you've got these fucking people who will condemn 1 week and then celebrate a similar action the other. Fuck off. But yeah, no, I think that he copped what he copped, and you've just got to move on.
Now I'm going to have my fucking rant, because this has really pissed me off. How did Camilleri, whatever, from St Kilda, who elbowed Murphy in the head with the ball 100 metres away, get 3 weeks, and then a bump that's basically as part of the play gets 3 weeks? It's a disgraceful comparison of what happens. A deliberate act of elbow to the head, 3 weeks, when it should have had 6, and a bump gets 3 weeks. So if you're going to give the 3 weeks to De Goey, that should have been 6. It's a disgrace that a deliberate act versus a act as part of football is the same. Well, fucking ridiculous.
Comparatively, let's look at Murphy's bump, which gave away a free.
Oh, yeah. Murphy's just a little tap.
When do the Academy Awards nominations come out? Because Fritz should be on the fucking top of the list, wouldn't he? The stage and twat.
Oh, look.
No, the one today where he bloody dropped quicker than a $2 person who does things for $2.
Well, fucking...
And then got the free and the goal.
No, he missed that one.
Did he?
Yeah, he missed that one.
Oh, no, he did, sorry. It's still
that's
still weak as fucking piss.
Nah, that was
well, that's one. They're talking about getting rid of staging, and it's like that's a terrible one. It's like fucking Murphy used the force on him, and he just flew away. I mean, the ones you talk about, like
push.
There
was even a boom noise as he went backwards. I'm pretty certain. Was there any cable work, or did they manage to CGI?
There's a green screen behind him.
Fucking hell! It was like back to the side. I don't think fucking Kennedy went back with that much force.
I mean, this is me being serious. Is anything behind the ball that's not on play, it should be fucking like a 6 week plus. The Caminiti hitting Murphy, I know they were jostling, but it's like, you know what, that's not in fucking play. So you hit him in the face, fuck you.
Elbow to the head, and he got concussion. So ridiculous.
I actually hate all this shit where players well behind the player just going, they're bumping each other and they're jostling. And that's why there was the rationale, or there wasn't the uproar over the shit that Sydney tried to do to Nick Dacos.
No, it was crap.
You know, it's like, it's just jostling and all that. It's like, no, well, why are you doing that? There should be none of that. If you fucking eliminate that, then you're not going to get the potential accidents.
But it wasn't just jostling. It was like doing the head and everything. It's like, wait a minute.
I'm fritched.
Oh, you're fritched out. You're fritched out. Like, it was all that sort of stuff. So it wasn't just a bump. It was way more than that.
And this is what I'm saying. So anything off the ball should just be like, no, you know, I don't want to see any of that shit. So that's what the AFL should smack down on, because then you start to eliminate the other stuff, which is a flow-on from that. Marlon Pickett won't go into what's happened, but I will go into the reportage of this compared to the reportage of, for example, you put it pretty well, Spook, the guy who got in trouble for dancing with a woman last year.
Yeah, someone you knew.
Yeah.
I can only assume that the acts that perpetrated by Marlon Pickett were against people he knew to get let off so quickly.
By the media, that is.
Oh, and obviously, and you're forgetting Ginnivan, who was basically all over the news for at the start of the year for his own problem in a toilet in some pub that some lowlife was actually taking
I bring Mark Robinson in
a picture and a video of a guy in a toilet, which is disgraceful.
Because this is one thing I hate. So, John Ralph, Mark Robinson, these sort of journalists who are just fucking clickbait extraordinaires. What would you try and... if you sort of control the AFL, what the fuck would you do with these sort of people?
They're our shill. What do you mean? So they do what we told them to do.
Well, they're not shilling. They're clickbaiting.
Yeah, but they do what they tell you to do. They do what the AFL tells them to do. Otherwise, they wouldn't get anything.
I can guarantee... is it tonight? When's Robbo on next?
It was on.
The sanctimonious windbag is going to say about Pickett... Jared, we need to put our arms around him. We need to bring him in and make him feel loved. It'll be a completely fucking 180 degree way that they fucking harassed the goey. And that's the stuff that shits you.
But that's what I'm talking about. It's like the goey shit, then there was the Bailey Smith stuff, and he did that. The Robinson, we've got to support him and embrace him and all that sort of shit. But the goey, we've got to hang him and flog him publicly and all that sort of stuff.
For a month?
Yeah. And then when anything's too long, I mean, the whole the goey bump was, fucking Kane Corns going, it should be 5-6 weeks, and there's other people jumping in, it should be like a huge ban and all that sort of shit.
It was done 2 minutes after the fact. He's gone on Twitter and all the rest of it. He's done. He's 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
We often talk about, clearly there's a conspiracy against us because of the size of us. It's that tall poppy thing, all that sort of usual shit. And just to go off on a tangent, and I pointed out, I think, to our little group, there was something the AFL posted today. It's a picture of fucking the cartoon of Petrarca standing in a bakehouse with a pie there saying, Petrarca and the D's cooked the pies today. Could you recall ever the fucking AFL social media department going out and clapping to the point of celebrating a victory against one of the teams against another one? Have they ever done it before?
I don't know. I don't follow you.
And they'll never do it again.
No. I can't think of any.
They'll cop their fucking whack this week, but it's ridiculous.
Okay, well, I'll go for my rant now, which is totally separate. Brian Taylor, you're a fucking Collingwood hater.
Sure, something about this.
I am so sick of listening to your Collingwood bias. Fucking, the ball goes over to McCreary, he kicks it on the goal line, or was it touched? It came off his foot, you idiot!
Did you see the one where when Murphy went down, he tried to intimate the players now, aka Murphy, are deliberately whacking their head fucking down.
Yeah.
To draw a free. And then they banged on again with Will Huskin-Elliott, I think, delaying play or something.
Yeah, when it was coming off. Yeah.
No one else gets fucking drawn and quartered for this stuff.
So, BT, I'm coming after you. I'm going to try and make you lose every Collingwood job you have. That is my vow to you. I've already started. I'm coming for you, you prick. Anyway, any final thoughts?
No, let's just move on.
Premiership?
Later.